Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today in Spill the Sea, we are with an international Pokemon TCG player and YouTuber, finalist in the last Baltimore Regional. And today we are with Ciaran Farah. Hello, Ciaran. We are delighted by having you in this episode and very enthusiastic that we can talk something about Pokemon. So we have 11 questions that our followers ask. So go ahead. So the first question is, who is Ciaran Farah and how did you start in PTCG?
Sweet. Yeah, so thanks for having me here. My name's Ciaran Farah. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm 25 years old. I've been playing Pokemon since 2011, so quite a long time to be honest. And how I got started with the TCG. So when I was younger, like when I was a kid, I used to just collect the cards at school. I'd play the video games, but I never really knew how to play. When I was in like middle school, like the 7th grade, I got like a tin. I think it was a Zekrom tin for black and white. And there was like an advertisement inside the tin to play on Pokemon trading card game online. So I actually wasn't even download back then. You did in the web browser. So I played Pokemon online in the browser. And that's how I learned how to play. And then I went on YouTube and I looked up just Pokemon. And I found a video by the Top Cut by like Kyle Sukovich, Puka. He used to run that. And I watched my very first match, which was Ross Cawthon against David Cohen, the finals of Worlds with the Truth. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. So I'm like, okay, like mom, like dad, take me to tournaments. So the very first tournament I ever went to was a pre-release actually for Emerging Powers. And it was like really fun. And then I started going to Pokemon League and I started playing City Championships. And I was just instantly hooked. Like I just loved playing the game. So yeah, I've been playing pretty much ever since, with maybe only a couple of years off like between all that time. So I've been playing for a really long time.
Okay, so you are near to 14 years playing Pokemon, no?
Yeah, around, this is, like 13. I started like, over 13 years ago actually, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, almost 13 now.
Okay, that's fine. And so in that age, so we can start talking about Honolulu. So let's talk about Honolulu and how it was for you.
Sure. Honolulu is a city, a world's location. I thought was really cool. I think they've done a good job. Like for the past few years, they picked great locations like Japan, London. That obviously now we're going back to some more average US ones. But I really enjoyed Honolulu. It was a really cool place. I've never been to Hawaii, so I enjoyed that. I didn't do the best of the tournament. I went like 3-3 with Regidrago. I didn't get the best like matchups or draws. But overall, I thought the tournament was it was good. Like I liked it. I don't have anything to complain about or anything special about it though.
Okay. And did you play something in the next day of Honolulu or just the world one? So like side events or something like that?
No, I just played the main event. When I go to these tournaments, like part of it, I think I like the travel aspect. So if I'm in a city I've never been to, like Honolulu, like I spend my time normally exploring. So if I'm not in the main tournament, I go like either like I went hiking in Honolulu, or I'll go like downtown or something and I'll explore. That's normally what I do. So.
Okay, so make some tourism, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so now move forward. In this season, you have very good started. So how was the experience in Baltimore and how were your matches?
Yeah, Baltimore obviously went extremely well for myself. I finished second with Lugia. So yeah, like the experience was okay. Like the venue is big. Like Baltimore is like an average city. It's not that exciting. So my matches overall were really good. Like going to the tournament, I'm like, okay, just don't play Iron Thorns or Miraidon. I didn't play against any of them. It really felt like I just faced like easy matchups the whole time because I thought Lugia was just a really good play for that event just because there wasn't that much like Enhanced Hammer or Temple of Sinnoh. So it was like a really easy tournament for me, to be honest. I drew pretty well up until the finals, so it was just a great tournament, one of the best I've had in a long time. So.
How did you predict the meta in Baltimore?
Yeah, sure. So Baltimore, really, people just had like Worlds to go off of, I think. So obviously Regidrago did very well at Worlds. It was my popular deck by a lot. Iron Thorns won Worlds, so you would think that people would want to play the deck. But I actually thought that Iron Thorns wouldn't be that popular, and the reason is Iron Thorns isn't very fun to play. It's very boring. So when you're going to the World Championship, your goal is to win. So people will play whatever deck they think has the best chance to win. when you go to regionals, most people are just casual players. Like, they're not going to play a deck that's not fun because they're spending money, like they're traveling, they want to play something fun. So I didn't think that many people play Iron Thorns. And then the other thing, if you're going to play Lugia, is you have to be scared of Miraidon. Miraidon got top 4 at Worlds with Jesse Parker. But when you see like the online tournaments too, and like the people are talking about, they're talking about Ancient Box and Charizard, I'm like, well, those are bad matchups for Miraidon. And Lugia also didn't do very well at Worlds, so people weren't going to play it as much. So like, it didn't make sense for people to play Miraidon. So I just thought people won't play the deck that much. And if they do play it, they're not going to do very well because the meta is not good for it. And then after that, I'm just like, hey, Regidrago's going to be the most popular because it's the best. People like Charizard, it's going to be popular. Raging Bolt's popular. Those are the kind of decks that I don't think their popularity really changes that much. So that was kind of how I predicted it. Just kind of like, I guess, to give you a high level, is like looking at online tournaments, what people are talking about, and then just using data from the World Championships and predicting how that would go into people's thought process. So that, and then the other thing I was thinking about for the meta is if people are going to play Temple of Sinnoh or if they're going to play Enhanced Hammer, because we saw at Worlds most people did play those cards in their Drago decks, even some of the Charizard decks. And with Lugia not doing well, a lot of people are starting to take those cards out because those cards are only really good against Lugia. So if Lugia is not popular, you don't really want to play them. So I would go on like Limitless and I'd look at the online tournaments and I would see if people were still playing it. And it seemed like half the people were just cutting those cards from their deck. So I thought it was pretty safe to say that a lot of people wouldn't be rocking Temple or Enhanced on the weekend. So all those factors together kind of like made me feel like, hey, Lugia is a really good play for this weekend since its matchups are the best.
Oh, okay. And I remember now the match with Roaring Moon in top 4. I think it was in top 4. Okay, so how was it?
Yeah, so that was a really, really close match. One of the closest matches I think I've played in a long time. Roaring Moon is a really easy matchup because you play Mist Energy. But my top 4 opponent did play Enhanced Hammer. So the whole weekend over 16 rounds, that was the only round someone played Enhanced Hammer or Temple of Sinnoh on their deck. So I remember the first game, I thought I just won the game. So I had like Mist Energies on all my EXs, or my V-Stars. And then he played that Enhanced Hammer and he stole the first game pretty much from me. And then when he had Enhanced Hammer, I knew it was going to be much more difficult because I can't bench that many 2-prizers because I can't protect all of them. So I kind of had to adjust my strategy to putting 2 Mist Energies on like my attacker. So it'd be that Lugia or Blood Moon, but it was Lugia V-Star in my games. And kind of adjust from there. And then, yeah, I remember the second game, like I didn't draw the best and I had to pull off this like crazy play where I had to put a double turbo on my Lugia so I wouldn't knock out his Roaring Moon because I was going to lose to Pekarunt. Because again, I couldn't put a legacy on my Lugia because he played Enhanced Hammer. So it completely changed how I had to play the matchup. It took something that's a really simple and easy deck to beat into something where I really had to think carefully about my prize mapping and how I manage my energies. But it ended up being a great match. I think people who watched it really said that was probably one of the more exciting games that was on stream that weekend. And it was definitely more memorable for me because of that Enhanced Hammer.
Yeah, I remember that Lugia V-Star with 2 Mist Energy. And that was, whoa, no, the Roaring Moon could never kill you, no? And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Okay, so do you think Lugia is a skill deck or a lucky deck?
I mean, like every deck is a lucky deck at some point, right? Like every deck you need to draw well to set up. I think Lugia, like people just consider it more of a lucky deck because you have cards that flip coins, like stuff like the Aroma and the Mezagoza. And like, yeah, like there's obviously chance that's involved with Lugia. Like there was multiple times where I'm like playing Capturing Aroma where I'm like, okay, like I really need tails or I really need heads, right? But that's like any deck. Like other decks, like if you play Charizard, for example, you're like, oh, I really need to draw Arven or Poffin on my first turn. It's equally random. It just doesn't feel as random because you're not flipping a coin. I don't think Lugia takes more skill than playing a deck such as like a Gardevoir or a Regidrago, for example. But the deck still takes skill, right? Like you have to understand how to prize map. You have to understand like how many like 2-prizes you can bench. There's a lot of boards at the end of a game where if you use gift energy efficiently, you can make a board where no matter what your opponent does, like they have to let you draw cards with gift. There's a lot of skill that does go into playing the deck at the highest level. But if you're just saying like compared to the other decks, like I'd say yes, like it's less skilled than like playing something like a Regidrago. But it's still any deck you play in Pokemon, no matter how simple, it still takes skill if you want to make it to the top tables, the top cut. Otherwise, I think you wouldn't see like the similar people making top cut with these decks all the time, right?
Okay, maybe it happens to you a lot, but how do you manage to overcome a death hand?
A dead hand?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it depends how dead your hand is. There's some dead hands you can't come back from, but I mean, when you have a dead hand or you're at a disadvantage, you're behind on the board state, you kind of have to take more risks and gamble more. So maybe if I have a dead hand, I'm just like, well, the only way I'm going to win is if next turn I top deck Research or Iono to draw cards. And I'll just play assuming I'm going to top deck one of those cards. If I don't top deck, I just lose anyways, which is fine. So I'd say when I have a dead hand, I play more aggressive, I take more risks because I'm already from a losing position, and you need to have something miraculous, or you need those risks to pay off if you want to get back into the game. Or I just think about, I'm like, hey, what play could I make that my opponent might not be able to respond, or if they whiff, or if they misplay or something. So I guess it's just doing your best to figure out, okay, how could I get saved from this position, and just playing towards that, even if it's not currently in your hand. So.
Okay, that's nice. How much Lugia changed with the Stellar Crown? Or maybe you are testing something else for Stellar Crown?
Yeah, I don't think Lugia changes at all. There's no new cards in Stellar Crown that are good for Lugia. It's just basically if the metagame changes. So I think Lugia is still a good deck for Stellar Crown. It seems like people are still not playing Enhanced Hammer or Sinnoh. The one deck I've been playing a lot with Stellar Crown is I've been playing the Trapago's Dustnor deck. I think that deck is really, really strong. I know it didn't do very well at the Japan Champions League, but I really expect that to be a strong deck in the format. So that and Lugia are the two decks that I'd say are my Stellar Crown decks right now.
Nice. We have here some comments of our followers about LAIC 2023 in a stream against a Peruvian player, Angel Aranibar. Remember that match?
Yeah, I remember that match. I was playing Gardevoir, he was playing Giratina, lost on Giratina. Yeah, I remember one part of the game was I remember he had a slower start, and I remember I had the opportunity to Iono, or I could research and get rid of a lot of resources. And I remember I Luminion for research instead of playing Iono because I remember his hand was a brick. And I remember the game still ended up being somewhat close, both of them. But yeah, like they're on YouTube if you want to watch. It's a good match actually. I think I won 2-0, but it went to time, and like both games, I needed some things at the end to go my way to pull it out. But yeah, I definitely remember that match. It was definitely one of the closer ones I played that weekend.
Nice. And do you have any goals in these seasons? Maybe win a regional or AC, or another goal?
Yeah, I mean, my goal is always to win every tournament I play. I think I've played Pokemon for such a long time, and I have so many top cuts at these majors in Masters without a win. Like I've won in seniors before, but I've gotten second at a regionals twice in Masters. I've gotten like top 4, top 8 regionals, top 4, top 8 IC. So really just finishing with that champion trophy like this year, be it a regional, an IC, or Worlds. I just want to win one of them. That's my goal because I know I'm capable of doing it. So that's my main goal for sure this year.
I see. What are your predictions for Stellar Crown meta? Which will the top 5 decks for you?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like Stellar Crown's going to change a lot. I think the only really new deck is like the Trapago's deck. Some old decks are getting adjusted, like Palkia might see play again. But I think a lot of the same decks that are good right now are going to be good with Stellar Crown. So I think Charizard is still going to continue to be a great deck, debatably the best. I think Raging Bolt is also going to be a great deck. I think Lugia is still probably, in my opinion, like a top 5 deck. Regidrago I still think is a good deck. And I really do think the Trapago's Dustmore deck, I really do think it's a good deck. I think by the end of the format, I think right now maybe no one's figured out the best list for it, but I think by the end of the format that deck will be really successful. And then you have like some other stuff, maybe I wouldn't call them top 5, but I think stuff like Gardevoir is still good, stuff like Roaring Moon is still fine. I guess Iron Thorns is still a deck. Those are all fine decks. And I guess Palkia to me is maybe the other deck where I haven't played enough games with it, but I could see it being very good with the new Area 0 card.
So we have a very open meta, I think, no? We have a lot of decks that could win, and it could be very hard for the players to prepare against them.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, are you attending to other regional or maybe coming to LATAM?
Yeah, so I actually don't go to that many American regionals. It's actually very expensive to fly from Canada. I mean, I'm sure you guys know how expensive it is to fly to the US. The currency's weaker, it's like far, all this stuff. So my next tournament is actually going to be LAIC, so I'm not going to any of the other regionals. I'm going to the Argentina special event, actually. My friend and I were going on vacation to South America for a few weeks. And between doing like the IC, so I'm going to be at that one. I'll be at Toronto Regionals, because that's my home city. I'll be at Vancouver Regionals, because that's in Canada. And I'm actually going to go to both Mexican regionals, I think. A fun fact, I actually grew up in Mexico. I grew up in Saltillo, which is an hour from Monterrey. So I'll be at that regional. And then I'll go to the other, I forget where the other one in Mexico is, but I'll be there as well. So, and then the ICs, I'll obviously be at all the ICs. So.
Okay, fine. Do you have any recommendation for improve in the game?
Yeah, like there's so many ways to get better. I always say number one, I think that's important, is like holding yourself accountable. So that means like not blaming luck. That means always reflecting on what you could be doing better. Even if you get unlucky in a game, like try and sit down and be like, okay, could I have done this or this better to maybe win? Because if you always just blame luck all the time, you're not going to get better. And then the other thing I would say is like look for ways to practice that aren't just playing games. So if you're going to watch like the stream, for example, like one thing I like to tell people to do is like you can pause a stream game like on someone's turn before they start. Then just in your head, just say like, okay, I think they should do this, this, and this turn. And then see if they do the same thing. So if you watch someone like Tord, for example, Tord's probably going to make like the best plays. And if he doesn't do the same one you thought of, try and figure out why. Like maybe you're right, but like a lot of times like you might be missing stuff. So that's a great way to practice by yourself. And then the other thing about getting better too is like when you practice games, make sure you understand what you're practicing. If you're just playing a game to play a game, like you're not really learning anything. So play a matchup and be like, okay, like I'm trying to figure out if I have this specific tech in my deck, how much it switches a matchup. If I do this specific line in a matchup, how much does that change or reflect like how much, or I guess reflect on the percentage of like the matchup. So like understand, like have a goal for your testing session. Maybe it's like if you play a Charizard deck, be like, okay, like I want to test against the Terrapagos deck today. I want to see what my win rate is going first, going second. Figure out if it's better to go first or second. If I add this tech card to my deck, how does that change the matchup? So understanding when you play games that you're actually trying to learn something. You're not just playing a game to play a game, because then you normally don't really learn much. So those are just some like general tips I have for improving as a player.
Nice. For finish, can you say something in Spanish?
Yeah, gracias por su apoyo.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for your time, Ciaran. Hope you see in another opportunity, and best luck for the next matches that you have.
Thanks. Thank you so much for having me on, and best of luck to everyone listening as well in all your games you play.
Okay, thank you.